I wish you all could feel the energy that comes out of that bowl. It is amazing. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Joe Penno, your worship associate today. I am joined on the chancel by Shawn Gibson as our visiting minister. We have music today from Les Downs, and we have the ever-kind Simon Jacobs on tech today. I want to shout out to our coffee elves and our dedicated safety team and all the folks who work to keep this place humming. I have been asked to remind you, and I've done it myself to make sure, please take this time to silence anything that makes noises. Phones, watches, whatever they might be, unwrap those little candies so those plastic wrappers aren't happening when you're in the middle of your moment of silence. I am, again, Joe Penno. I am a middle-aged, stout of build, blatantly average height, bald man. Unfortunately, the bald part, but you know, I live with it. In any case, I want to welcome everybody here. Welcome to the folks at home that are watching. Whoever you are, wherever you are from, however you identify, wherever you are on your life's journey, whomever you love, you are welcome here. The flowers this morning have been provided by Ruth Christie in honor of her husband, David Hall Christie, who passed away in 2019 just before his 95th birthday. And we want to thank her for those. And the gift of our opening music this morning from Dr. Les.
Thank you, Dr. Les, for the music this morning. As Joe said, my name is Shawn Gibson. I am a tall, white male in his late 30s, going 40 next year. And I am dressed in a long black ministerial robe with purple accents, and I wear glasses. This morning, our chalice lighting words are "We Seek Steadiness" by Joan Javier Duval. Our chalice lighter this morning, if they'll come up, is my stepdaughter, Kaylee. As the world shifts beneath us, we seek steadiness, the unwavering support of community, and the principled guidance of wise teachings, the faithful turning of the seasons. We seek within ourselves and in one another a devotion to all that is true and all that is just, all that is beautiful. We gather here to reground ourselves and to reorient toward our heart's calling. Here we hold on to what is good, what we believe, and what we must do. With resolute and compassionate hearts, let us worship together this morning. Now, I was called this morning as I was brushing my teeth to switch our hymns this morning. If you are following along with our order of service, we're singing the second hymn first and the first hymn last. So rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn 1014 out of our teal hymnal, Answering the Call of Love. And thank you all for being here this morning. I've got a really awesome wisdom story for us to read together today as we think about what we're being called to. Our wisdom story this morning is When You Dream Big by Peter Reynolds. So who's ready to dream big? Miss Raina was as excited about her students as her students about Big Dream Week. What do you want to be when you grow up? Charlie had no idea. Where will your wings take you? Do you see her wings say dream and big, dream big? Students were writing their dream jobs on their own colorful wings. And Charlie, well, she had no idea. She was stumped. Charlie did have dreams, mostly at night, but they seemed to vanish the moment that she woke each day. As far as big dreams about her future, well, she had no idea. Okay, as you keep working on your wings, is anyone ready to share their dream for the future? Charlie was surprised to see many hands go up, waving wildly to be chosen. Charlie sat on her hands, thankful that her teacher had pointed to Hazel. "I want to be an astronaut," Hazel shouted confidently. "I'm going to Mars. Anyone want to come with me?" Laughter and cheers rang throughout the room. Charlie was afraid of heights, so there definitely was no rocket ship in her future. Martin declared, "I'm going to be a famous actor." Charlie was dizzy just thinking about being on stage. Yeah, I feel Charlie's pain. Anya stood up. "I'm going to be an engineer. I'll build a bridge across the ocean." "That's impossible," chortled Brendan. "Engineers love to ponder the impossibles," their teacher reminded them. But Charlie felt more and more nervous. Miss Rayna looked directly at her and smiled, but then she said to everyone, "Don't worry if you need more time. This is a very big question." After school, as Charlie walked home, she grew more and more anxious. The more she worried, the slower she went, until finally she stopped, frozen in her tracks. Her head hung low. She stared down at her toes, and there they were. Charlie smiled, 10 toes all pointing in the right direction. Then she gave her toes a good wiggle, and she breathed deeply, and she felt what? Grounded. Charlie whispered to herself, "Forward." She kept going, determined. The next morning, after a deep sleep, Charlie awoke, surprised that she remembered her dreams that inspired new ideas. She was excited to get back to school to share with her class. Charlie's teacher greeted her students. "Is there anyone else who wants to tell us their dream for the future?" Miss Rayna was surprised to see that not only was Charlie the first to raise a hand, but that she was wearing her colorful wings. Charlie stood up and was about to share, but suddenly she felt frozen again. But then she wiggled her toes. She slowly shared, "I don't exactly know what I want to be when I grow up, but I do know the kind of person I want to be. My dream is to be a bit braver every day." Charlie paused and added, "I also want to be a good person and a happy person." The class pondered her words, and then slowly her classmates joined in. "I want to be louder," whispered Samina. Colby added, "I want to make people smile more." Anya shared, "I want to be a creative thinker." Probably goes along with being an engineer. "I want to be the one people can count on," said Cooper. "I want to be adventurous," Hazel exclaimed. Josh joined in, making the class laugh. "I want to sleep a lot." Charlie then shared, "The most important thing is to keep going." Miss Rayna and her class posed for their big dream photo. Charlie looked down at her toes and gave them a good wiggle. And she was ready, a confident dreamer, always moving forward, always. And we're reminded by the author that you don't always have to know exactly where you're going. Just keep moving forward. So go ahead. I'm daring you to dream big.
There we go. So now, let's sing our children and youth to their religious exploration adventures. We want to invite any parents, especially if you're new or visiting for the first time and sending your kids to religious exploration classes today, to walk out with your children and meet their leaders so that you know where to pick them up after services. And I thought I was the techie one. Now is the time to acknowledge our joys and sorrows with the ritual of water and stones. For all that grieves our hearts, we will add salt to brine the water in this vessel. For all that brings our hearts joy or celebration, we scatter flower petals to symbolize our happiness or contentment. If you would like to put a stone in for a joy or sorrow, we invite you to do that now. If you can make the lines to the left and the right, and then exit up the center. And if it gets a little crowded in the center when you're going back, don't be afraid to say, "Excuse me," and go on through. Shawn and I will be down here if anybody wants a hug in the meantime as well. Is there anyone who would like for us to place a stone in the bowl for them? Okay. So we will add another rock for those who are not with us for their sorrows, and another after that for their joys. If you shared a joy, know that we rejoice with you. If you have shared a sorrow, know that you are held in love and care by this community. I guess it's me again. Well, you get to hear me more, huh? So this morning, Shawn provided us a reading, and this reading is by Greg Lavoie from his book Callings, Finding and Following an Authentic Life. In many traditions, calls in the form of sounds precede prayer, rites of initiation, spiritual healings, and major life events. The purpose of calls is to summon adherents away from their daily grinds to a new level of awareness, into a sacred frame of mind, into communion with that which is bigger than themselves. In the primary creation myth of Western cosmology, the very first call came through the voice that said, "Let there be light." And there was light. The words then becoming flesh, Every call since then has also been a call to form, a call to each of us to materialize ourselves. Calls, of course, beg the question, who or what is calling? But in attempting to answer this question, even an exhaustive list of every name for soul or destiny or God would be beside the point. It simply doesn't matter whether we call it God, the patronizing intelligence, the design mind, the unconscious, the soul, the force of completion, the center court, or simply life longing for itself, as Khalil Gibran envisioned. It is clear, however, that living means being addressed, as the theologian Martin Buber once said, and whatever or whoever is addressing us is a power like wind or fusion or faith. We can't see the force, but we can see what it does. Primarily, this force announces the need for change, and the response for which it calls is an awakening of some kind. A call is only a monologue. A return call, a response, creates dialogue. Our own unfolding requires that we be in constant dialogue with whatever is calling us. The call and one's response to it are also a central metaphor for the spiritual life.
Thank you, Les, for the music for today's service, and I'm really grateful that Dr. Les is here with us today. I'd like to begin this morning's service by giving you all an update on my journey through seminary. I had several of you tell me you weren't sure I was a minister, didn't know I was a minister. I'm on the journey, but we're not there yet. And so that's part of today's service and sermon. As some of you know, I began my studies in 2022, and I've been progressing part-time. But I'm excited to say that the time has come for my congregational ministerial internship. And thank you. And I'm pleased to announce that for the next 2 years, I will be interning with the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County in Brevard, North Carolina. Thank you. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Reverend Bob Brangillian, who is the settled minister serving at UUTC and who will also act as my supervisor. I want to thank the members of the UUT Internship Committee. and I want to thank all of you. This is my home congregation, and so it's important for me when I get to come back here and preach. The friends and members of this congregation, I thank you for the role that you've played in my journey. It was here that my journey as a Unitarian Universalist began, and here where I found a community where I could ask questions, seek meaning, make mistakes, and learn to be in relationship with others, and to discover a faith that I could believe in. Here I've always been invited to bring my whole self to the practice of living out a faith of love, and it is here where I first felt the calling to join in the footsteps of those who've kept and continue to keep this faith alive. And as I begin this new ministerial stage of formation, this new stage, I find myself returning again to the question of what does it mean to be called? Other questions arise and have arisen, like who or what has done the calling? What does it mean to recognize and respond to a call? And to what are we being called? More broadly, I think about the question and wonder, as Unitarian Universalists, to what are we being called to now in this moment? In our reading this morning, Greg Lavoie offers the idea that the purpose of calls is to summon adherents away from their daily grind into a new level of awareness, a sacred frame of mind, into communion with a new level of things which are bigger than themselves. Throughout the scriptures of the world and throughout history, throughout time and place, we find many examples of human beings who are called to act in ways that were larger than the ways they first thought themselves capable. When we hear the word calling used in a way to describe something that brings a new level of awareness or brings us into communion with a sacred frame of mind, we may think of roles like spiritual or religious vocation. But instead, perhaps we think about other vocations, like that of being called to become a nurse or a doctor, a parent, an airline pilot, or perhaps we discovered that we've been called to be a teacher, a public servant, or just to step up in hard times and be the provider for our families. Far outside the ordinary, our deepest soul's longings can ask us to go far beyond the call of vocation or profession, deeper still into a transformation of the self, the soul, or what we find as a new way of perceiving ourselves or the world around us. Throughout our lives, we encounter people, places, and things that take us outside ourselves and ask us to grow, to change, to reevaluate, to serve, or to step into a new role and become something entirely new that we've never been before. Something we have never considered for our lives, something we might even resist. Sometimes we are pushed to think of bigger ideas, called to dream of our brighter futures, and to push ourselves to grow into becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can become. We can also find sometimes that our calling has already begun to show itself to the world through our lives, and how that is how others around us are able to recognize our gifts and to recognize our callings sometimes before we even realize them ourselves. Perhaps when we recount a calling to a journey that we are sent on, we ask that it begins to respond to circumstances. It asks us to begin responding to circumstances with more grace, more bravery, more empathy, or with more compassion than we previously thought possible. Sometimes our call in life is to continue growing, to continue learning, to bend with the flow of transformation wherever that journey might take us. When we have the experience of hearing or following a call, we might find ourselves being asked to revisit our past, our roots, and to reacquaint ourselves with ourselves, to confront old ways of thinking and behaving in the world. Sometimes we're asked to reconsider times where we might have been wrong. And sometimes we're given the opportunity to revisit those things in our lives that brought us pain, or to confront harmful theologies that only gave us shame or fear. Sometimes by revisiting the faith of our childhood, we find truths that can be saved and others that we would rather leave behind. Often our callings ask us to take risks in pursuit of a greater calling. Perhaps we're asked to put some of our security on the line in order to protect others. Perhaps some of us are called to sacrifice some comfort and to use our privilege to help others who are struggling just to make ends meet. In the pursuit of our higher ideals, we will be tested in ways that we were never sure would be tested in pursuit of becoming the best of who we are. And along the way, we may find ourselves thinking, but who am I to make a change? Will anyone listen to what I have to say? And what do I have to offer that's worth hearing anyway? What sacrifices will we all be asked to make in order to follow what our present moment is calling us to? What are we willing to give up in pursuit of this higher calling? And perhaps most importantly, if I'm asked to take on a new role or to step into a new way of being, am I willing to say yes? Or finally, what happens if I say no? Like many times throughout our Unitarian Universalist and Unitarian Universalist history, I believe we are now being called to respond to the needs of our time. Now, don't everyone go rushing off to seminary, because we need more than just ministers in this big coalition. In our history, we've had ministers, religious educators, administrators, friends, music directors, worship associates, volunteers, and the ordinary people who were called into these spaces to serve our faith in many ways. And we have friends outside of this faith who we have been called to work with at this time. In our history, we have had those who fought for the abolition of slavery, those who advocated for the right and full inclusion of women in the ministry, and people who have advocated for the human dignity of our LGBTQ plus siblings. We are a people who have showed up time and time again when we were asked to put feet to our faith. We are a people, I think about the people who were called to Selma in the 1960s to stand up for racial justice and voting rights. It mirrors a lot of similarities that we're going through and facing in our current time. I think about the people who were called there to stand up for racial justice and voting rights, because some of those who answered that call never returned to their families. I think of heroes like Miss Rachel, a homegrown Unitarian Universalist who's been called to be on television and educate and care for the children of this world, and who even now is reaching out to children suffering in Palestine or those in U.S. immigration detention centers. I think of her willingness to show kindness and compassion to all the children of the world, because I think of how she has faced major criticism for how she's taken a stand in showing kindness and compassion with those who most are looked down on in our society today. I think of the various ways our congregation affirms and promotes the worthiness and dignity of all people, and how this aspirational faith calls us to find more love somewhere. I think of the people who arrive early each Sunday morning and help start the coffee, who stand and greet us with kindness and generosity at the door each Sunday. People who take time out of their lives to show generosity and kindness to others. There are many people like us who are looking to join the movement for a more perfect humanity. People who say enough to violence and who say that this is not the way. I found it common amongst my seminary and ministerial colleagues that there's often some current event in their lives that call them to work for a brighter future. In a recent interview with Reverend Bob, who will act as my supervisor, I asked him about his calling into ethical leadership, and he stated that he felt called in the 1970s when he was in seminary by the feminist movement, by the women who were advocating for the full dignity of women in workspaces and in other spaces. He also felt called by the Watergate scandal. For him, it was a moment where truth in leadership became embodied and where we needed to see real leadership and truth from our leaders in this society. I felt the need to answer yes in my own calling in response to the Black Lives Matter movement of the 2020s, the recent and deadly resurgence of Christian nationalism and its blending with our politics, and I felt called to join the modern movement of people healing from religious trauma, many of which find Unitarian Universalism to help them on their journey towards growth and meaning. I've heard from others in my colleagues who have begun following their call after the events of Standing Rock, those who've accepted a calling in response to the mass incarceration of black and brown bodies, or those who have suffered at the mercy of harmful religious beliefs and figures who have harmed them and their ideas of God in the past. Whatever it is in our daily lives that call us to join in the work for a better world, I've found that we are each uniquely called by those things inside of us, as well as those outside of ourselves, that help us respond to our values and to the mission of our heart's desires. As people of faith, like many other people of faith around the world, we gather ourselves here in this space and in this time to nourish ourselves in a place that feels connected to the heart and depth of what we desire. As people of faith, we've felt called to come to this space and this community, to find hope in our relationships and our connection to each other. We come here to discern together the ways that we are called as a people and as a congregation to be in the world, how to bring and share our values in our local community, and how to be mindful of ways we interact with our relations, both within and outside our community. What I believe calls us as Unitarian Universalists are those things we affirm together. We are called to embrace our religious plurality as we draw from the deep wells of the world's belief systems. As Unitarians, we value the wisdom of reason that we find and we receive from our various religious traditions, our atheist, agnostic friends, and those who are still searching for what is true. With reverence, we feel called by humanist and earthwise nature teachings to live in harmony with the people and the other teeming life that we find that strengthen the interdependent web of all life, of which we are all connected. We follow our call to encourage one another to growth in our search for truth and meaning. And we act out our calling by being neighbors and siblings to one another, while allowing ourselves to remain open to transformation, change, and new insights. In this space and in the larger world, we recognize our interdependence and as one of many on this planet that we share. We promote justice in all our relations and advocate for justice and freedom for everyone, not just those who hold power and privilege. We share and seek to break down the barriers within ourselves and in our congregations that keep us limited in our actions, in our beliefs, and in our work to dismantle systems of oppression and racial discrimination. As we've heard before, Unitarian Universalists don't stand on our values. Instead, we're called to move through the world carrying those values into the daily interactions of our lives. As the Reverend Marion Bishop Buddy of the Episcopal Church stated in her recent Ware lecture at this year's General Assembly of Unitarian Universalists, we UUs are usually called to be first, to show up for justice, for solidarity, and for love. Yet I don't always believe that being first is enough, and I don't think that it's all we're called to do. As many of us have struggled with their times and the discrepancy between what they know to be true and just and what our society is asking us to reconcile with now, we are being asked to face these times we've been given, to make our mark in history as a people of faith and find ourselves in the history books, asked by our children and our descendants, what did you do when the call for justice came? Friends, I don't think that's a question I can weigh lightly or I can wait until history uncovers in our stories. It's today we find ourselves in a time when what is being asked of us is going to take some practice to get it right. Pursuing a calling will not always be easy. It takes practice. It takes failures. It takes stumbling. But like many in our past who found their calling and had found them before they even knew they were ready to begin, we can take some wisdom from the hobbit Frodo, who opined to his friend, the wizard Gandalf, that sometimes we wish that the calling we have received had never come to us. And yet wisely Gandalf responds, "So do all who live to see such times, Frodo. But that's not for them to decide. All we have to decide now is what to do with the time we're given." Blessed be.
Okay, I didn't know if you were going to do more percussion or not, so okay. We're good. We now come to the part of this where we do the work of the congregation. No. Oh, are we? Oh, Shawn. Shawn was supposed to announce the hymn.
See, it takes practice, perfect, and failure. Okay.
We're going to sing hymn 95, There Is More Love Somewhere. If you would rise as you are able, please.
Sorry, Les. Now we get to do the work of the congregation. I think this, for me, is probably one of the most joyous times of our services. As I look out amongst all the familiar faces, I see lots of new ones. So we are going to have a couple of ushers walk around with microphones. If you would like to, please stand up, tell us who you are and where you're from, and we'll make a proper welcome.
Good morning. My name is Bill.
I'm Linda.
We are visitors from Boone. We are active with the Boone Unitarian Universalist Fellowship there, so it's really nice to be with all y'all this morning.
Welcome.
Hey, I'm Tommy Brown. I'm a Presbyterian minister. I work in Montreat. Also have worked with UU Fellowships in Boone, and most recently with UU in Swannanoa Valley.
Welcome.
And I'm Karen Brown, married to Tommy. And Bill and Linda are visiting us from Boone, and we're happy to be here this morning.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Russell. I'm moving from Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I'm actually from Spartanburg, and I've been wanting to live in Asheville for about 15 years, seriously, and finally I've been able to execute on that, and I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ruth Christie, and I've been here forever. But I have my son Bill, his wife Patty, his daughter Karina, and his son Diego, who are too shy to stand up, and they've come from New Orleans.
Welcome.
Good morning. We're Steve and Evie Mobbs, and we're from Fernandina Beach, Florida. We come to the mountains for the summer, so it's not our first time here. We've been UUs for 50 years.
Welcome.
My name is Sarah. I'm sitting because I have a poor leg right now. But this is my second time here. But the first time, you guys did this Walt Whitman poem that I really love. And today, I just read that book, Callings. It always feels like such a right place. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Fiona, and this is my father, Fernando Magallanes. I moved to Asheville recently. I've been to the Hendersonville congregation before. My father's visiting from Raleigh, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to discover a new place.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ren Gresh, and I've been here for about 20 years, and I just recently discovered this place, and I thought it would be a nice place to bring my sister because she'd been searching for a long time for a place to feel like she belongs, so I brought her here because I've been here before. What she said. Oh, your name. Oh, sorry, I'm Lindsay.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Laura. My first time here, and I live down the road on Kimberly, and I've been in Asheville for 5 years now, so finally came here.
Welcome. Okay. So we do have a connections coordinator. His name is Trevor. Trevor's on vacation. I didn't know they were allowed to have those here, but that's okay. But there he is. There's Trevor. So if you want information, Trevor is a great wealth of that, and he's glad to help you. But we also have a welcome table in the lobby, in the Sandberg Hall, that if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them there. All of our congregant members know that we are supposed to talk to 3 people that we have not talked to before. So you're going to get inundated with hellos and welcomes. We hope that's the case. Part of the reason I'm here today is because of that very thing. I felt very welcome the moment I walked in this door. So. Let's see, what else do I have? I get to do this because I have the podium. Our fundraising committee, that's capital F, capital U, capital N with a little d, we are planning our fall festival, fall arts festival. We are just about full with vendors. We're pushing about 50 at this point, which is huge for a first time. But we're going to need your help getting the word out to the community that we are going to have this festival. We want your folks to come and visit. We're running in conjunction with Pride on that Saturday. It's the 26th, I think, isn't it, right, Jenny? The 26th. So we'll get flyers out for folks, and if you can post them in your neighborhoods, in your community centers, and your libraries, that would be terrific. And the safety team needs you. We're small but mighty. They do great work. But we need more folks because we're starting to do more things. So we need some more help. There's only 6 of us right now, and we need to bump that up. So if anybody's interested, please see me or Graham or Connie, and we'll be glad to talk to you about it. Yes, there is a calling. That is definitely a calling. Our announcements run as slides at the beginning of the service. If you missed them, refer to Thursday's weekly e-news, as everything is described there. If you do not get the e-news and you would like to, please email us at information@uuasheville.org. This month's Community Plate recipient is WNC Votes, Western North Carolina Votes, and we have a speaker from there. Her name is Brenda Murphy, and she'll be right down.
Good morning. Thank you all so very much for selecting WNC Votes for your community plate offerings. WNC Votes is a coalition. It was started in 2024 by just a few organizations that decided to get together and work together to increase voter turnout. From the beginning, our mission has been to engage, educate, and empower sporadic voters and those who are often left out and left behind. We now have 9 organizational partners, including this congregation. Thank you so very much. And almost 200 volunteers. I would love to say 900. We'll get there. Nonpartisan outreach focuses on the voter, on an individual's lived experience and feelings, and on how they engage in the process of voting itself. The old-fashioned word for this is civic engagement. In my mind, civic engagement is really a fancy way of saying making your voice heard. But it's very hard to do that if you believe that your voice doesn't matter. Of the 1 in 5 eligible voters in North Carolina who don't vote, that's a pretty high number, most of these are likely to be young, Black, or Latino. A pattern that shows how systemic failures, economic pressures, and outright barriers to voting disproportionately silence the more vulnerable and marginalized among us. The deep canvassing method that we use in our door-to-door outreach really captures the heart of our approach across the board. We even call our registration and tabling activities stationary canvassing. So I'd like to just take a minute and describe what it is that we actually do in a nonpartisan outreach approach. Early on in a conversation with a sporadic voter, our volunteers will typically ask, how likely is it that you're going to vote in the coming election? On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is absolutely not, and 10 is I will absolutely be there no matter what. Where would you place yourself? And then whatever number they tell us, our response is simply, well, thanks, can you tell me why that number is right for you? Our response is not to persuade, to judge, or try to change. We just listen. And then as the conversation gets going, we ask other questions about voting, about the process of voting itself, such as, do you feel that voting matters in your life or in the lives of your loved ones? We ask questions like, have you found it easy to vote? What issues matter most to you that you would like whoever is elected to be able to address? And then when we come back again to asking about how likely it is that they will vote, invariably that number has crept up. The power in this approach is that simply talking with low likelihood voters about voting and listening to their stories and their concerns and the issues that concern them actually increases the likelihood that they will vote. So this month, we are really, really, really kicking into high gear. We've got less than, I think it's 93 days now before the fall election. So here's just a taste of our August calendar. It includes 2 more voter registration trainings. We've had 2 so far. 2 more canvasses. We've had 10 so far. And I just want to add, I believe that we are the only group of people working in a totally nonpartisan canvassing approach. There are, of course, a lot of people out going door to door working with political parties and working on behalf of individual candidates and campaigns. But I believe we are the only ones, and the many volunteers and organizations working with WNC Votes taking this approach. So we've got more canvases, 2 more postcarding events. Thanks to the UU congregation, a major partner in leading that, and 2 days of student outreach at Warren Wilson College. And we have voter registration and info tables scheduled at farmers markets every week, at a community fair, and at 8 free food markets in partnership with Bountiful Cities and Bounty and Soul. And there are more things in the works, and we will be participating in the upcoming Fall Festival. We will have a presence there as well. So your donations are a tremendous help in covering the expenses that are involved in putting all of this on. As a coalition of organizations, WNC Votes is run entirely on volunteer energy. So, in closing, I'd like to put in a little plug for volunteers. If you have time, I would love to see that some of you sign up for an upcoming voter registration or voter outreach opportunity, and encourage all of you also to please spread the word and encourage others to get up and volunteer with us as well. You can learn more about WNC Votes, who's working with us, what we're doing, and register for upcoming events at wncvotes.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda. You can donate by check if you would like to WNC Votes directly in the collection if you break their name community plate in the memo line. That way it'll all go there. Otherwise, all cash donations are split equally between us and our community plate partner. The work and the ministries of this congregation are entirely supported by the generosity of our members and friends. We celebrate your generosity every Sunday with the gift of music and thanks. You make us possible, and we give thanks for each and every one of you. The offering will now be gratefully collected. For the gifts of your presence, your time, your wisdom, and your resources, we are extremely grateful.
Thank you again for the music, Les. In our closing benediction, as we go out into the world to face and follow our very own and various callings, may we remember and follow that there is more love out there somewhere. May it be so. And now let's sing our closing song, Longtime Son.
get together